Hi, everyone. My name is Clea Carrington. I'm excited to be continuing our series of our Canadian Blockchain Consortium podcast. And today, I'm thrilled to be interviewing the amazing Pamela Draper. So to get into it, Canada is quickly undergoing a move towards a new digital economy, with cryptocurrencies and digital assets expanding in popularity as investments and also as payment solutions. So crypto exchanges are a very important marketplace for this digital finance and with a growing role in our financial system. So as the president and CEO of Bitvo and Pateno Payments, Pamela Draper is a leader in crypto innovation in Canada and participant in government working groups to drive the regulatory clarity in the emerging sector. So she brings a strong background in the traditional finance sector. Pamela has spent about 15 years at major Canadian banks, including director in BMO Capital Markets, Equity Capital Markets Group. So thank you, Pam, so much for joining me with our podcast today to give us your views and insights on the evolving role of cryptocurrencies in today's financial framework. So I'm just gonna say thank you.
Great. No, thank you very much for having me, Kalea, and thank you very much, CBC.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to pop into the questions. So you have a really incredible long background in finance, including at major banks. So how did you first get involved in this relatively new world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies?
I kind of fell into it. So when I was in banking and I was still at BMO, most of my clients were natural resource clients, but I did a little bit of tech. And in my last year at the bank, some of the cryptocurrency exchanges in Canada were coming to BMO to try to get banking. At the same time, I had a long-standing client in BC Bank who was getting similar requests from some of these cryptocurrency businesses in Canada. And if you think of the landscape in 2016, 2017, the players out there are some now very notorious names that neither BMO nor DC Bank felt that they could bank. So that would include the likes of Quadriga, and we all knew what happened there. So what DC Bank thought, and I had worked with the principals of DC Bank for about 10 years while I was at BMO, and they said, you know what, we love the cryptocurrency space. We really believe in it. We don't feel like we could bank a lot of the players in the space. Our backgrounds are all in the movement of money and payment processing. We feel like we could do this better, safer, more securely, more above board, and more able to withstand incoming regulation when the regulators eventually catch up. So why don't we build our own exchange? So the founding shareholder, Jeff Smith, who was the president and CEO of DC Bank, came to me as this long-term banker, and he said, this crypto idea I've been talking about, I'm like, yeah, really interesting. I'm really going down a rabbit hole here. And he's like, well, I think I'm really going to do it. And I was like, that's awesome. Let me know what you need. I'll do anything I can to help get started for you, being the kind of constant banker I was. He was like, well, I need someone to run it. I was like, okay, great. Tell me what you're looking for. I'll help you find that person. Is it like a trader? Is it someone with a tech background? So he kind of described what he was looking for. And I said, Jeff, I feel like you're describing me. And he was like, yeah, no, absolutely, I am. And at the time I was living in Toronto and working for BMO. And I said, there's no way I'm moving to Calgary to start this business with you and leaving the bank to go to this startup. That sounds insane. And this was December 2017. And he said, well, think about it over the holidays and come back to me in January. So I thought about it over the holidays, and I kind of went from how could I do this to how could I not do this? So in January, I agreed. In February, I packed up all of my stuff and then moved to Calgary, and we started Bitvo. That's kind of how I got into it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely amazing. And definitely, I could appreciate the risk. It's like, okay, I have this secure job, been at it, love it, know it. And then you have this exciting, emerging new world that just has these incredible volatility, all this room for growth. I can definitely appreciate the way that you guys started off going, okay, we're a bank, we could do this better, and not having the issues that we saw with Quadriga, because I mean, it definitely created a very poor reputation in the space. People became quite concerned seeing things like that in Einstein, and Bitvo's reputation is absolutely impeccable. You guys are an incredible exchange, and there's never been any hint of negative participation in the space. So you guys are definitely leading the charge there, and I know I'm very grateful to have you guys involved in creating a really positive reputation in the industry. So with Bitcoin, I know that's a hot topic for everyone right now, and this insane skyrocketing price has created so much interest. We have guys like Michael Saylor. We have Elon Musk. Like his tweets about it is definitely amusing every single day. But yeah, a lot of interest in this asset class. So how are exchanges kind of like coping with this insane demand? Like there must be an increase of just people going like, I want to buy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, the way the platforms are designed is it is relatively easy to scale. So you build this platform, you build the infrastructure around it, and a lot of it happens, for us anyway, electronically and automatically. So we've automated the entire KYC process for onboarding, we've automated trading, we've automated the deposits and the withdrawals. So we are able to scale in accordance with demand quite easily. I would say the areas that we've had to hire to accommodate some of this increased demand is some of the things like that are a little more manual. I'm thinking over-the-counter trading, so more of a white glove, in-person communication with a dedicated trader. Those, as demand increases, and to your point, we've certainly seen more institutions coming on, more corporations looking to get into the space. And so that does require an increase in our trading team. The other areas we're increasing with some of the increasing regulation coming in is on the compliance and reporting side, because with the announcement this week from the CSA and IROC, obviously there will be more reporting, monitoring, et cetera, that will be required of these platforms, more similar to traditional financial platforms going forward. So we're lucky that electronically we're able to scale quite quickly, but we're also hiring to meet the demand and the increased regulation as well.
That's fantastic. I know there's definitely, it's like regulatory gray areas have definitely been quite a challenge for the crypto markets. I know regulators are saying, okay, well, there is, a predefined set of standards that are just kind of like, this is how it works across the board. And with such a new and emerging market with crypto, they're trying to create exemptions, et cetera. So as a participant in some of the government working groups on compliance, how do you see regulations changing in Canada? Do you see them kind of being more amenable, similar to what Bermuda's doing?
So Bermuda developed a very specific regulatory framework that was structured and tailored specific to crypto. Our regulators don't seem to have gone that route. So when I think about regulation, I break it into two parts. There's the anti-money laundering, know your client part, which is FINTRAC. And then there's the securities and trading, I'll call it, part, which is the Canadian Securities Association, or CSA, and IROC, which work jointly on that side. And both in Canada, instead of building out their own crypto-specific regime, have tried to kind of slot cryptocurrency into the existing infrastructure, so far anyway. So FINTRAC, as of last June 2020, all virtual currency trading platforms are now required to be FINTRAC reporting entities. And then there's an increased reporting obligation through FINTRAC coming in June 2021. So it's kind of a two-tiered stage to getting these platforms regulated by FINTRAC. So that's all underway. We're all reporting entities now, and we will have increased reporting burdens for large virtual currency transactions coming this June. And FINTRAC has made some adjustments to their system to include virtual currencies, or they will anyway. But for example, when I say they've tried to fit us into their existing system, we're filling out reports like suspicious transaction reports, and there's a drop down for every single currency in the world. There's no drop down for Bitcoin. So you're selecting other and then writing in what you're doing. So we're very much slotted into the existing system. They are going to change that. They are going to update it. It's been a little slow, like everyone's excuse, COVID is impacting it. So we will get there.
I like that other.
And then on the CSA IROC side, they haven't yet made any changes to the existing infrastructure of how entities would report and be regulated to the CSA and IROC. What they have done, I think, is they've really taken some time to learn about the space, and they've released, as I'm sure a lot of us have seen, some very specific guidance about their thoughts on the space and how the existing businesses would need to fit into their regulation in order to be considered compliant. And while they haven't really changed their infrastructure or structure yet, they have given this sort of two-year on-ramp to be an IROC registered dealer. And I think IROC has spent a lot of time putting together their own working group of participants in the industry to really try to help them understand how to bring these businesses into the fold and change their existing infrastructure within IROC to accommodate, or not accommodate is probably not the right word, but include these businesses in a way that makes sense. So I do think, or I'm hopeful, that in this 2-year on-ramp period for everyone to become a registered IROC dealer, that they do make certain changes that will specifically incorporate the nuances of cryptocurrency, which are quite different than the existing financial infrastructure. And for example, custody would be one of those. So the way you custody crypto assets is entirely different than the way you custody traditional financial assets. It's not wrong, it's not right, it just needs to be accounted for within the structure.
I can totally appreciate that, because I know there's some conversations that I've been hearing, and a lot even has to do with being able to like understand who the customer is, being able to like track the wallet addresses. I've heard talks around like making sure that you're not accepting cryptocurrency from an address that's been sanctioned. But at the same time, if you have a like master public key, you can generate, an unlimited amount of addresses. So it's like, how do you actually perform this tracking? And in a lot of ways, it's unrealistic for them to assume that anybody, any company would actually have the resources and capability of performing a lot of these functions. So I think that's also a part where I'm noticing there's a little contention. It's just like, well, you have to track it. It's just like, but it's not possible.
Yeah. And it's not even, in certain instances, you're right. Like, it's not even a resources problem. Like, you could throw all the resources in the world at it, and it still wouldn't actually be possible to track that specific wallet address to any one particular individual, which is what they want you to do.
Not. Yes. And I think that's why stable coins seem to be taking a bit of a rise right now, because it's just like they're treating it more like traditional finance, but trying to make it also kind of a cryptocurrency at the same time. And even there, I'm listening to people discuss saying, oh, well, I can track on my network, where every single transaction is happening. And it's like, well, a lot of people get into crypto to specifically avoid that. So it's definitely going to be interesting there. So I'm really curious. I'm excited. I've been learning a little bit about your new venture, Pateno Payments. As this is new for you, what happened to make you guys like initiate this project? What problem were you looking to solve in the digital currency sector?
It's so interesting. So in a lot of people's minds, Pateno is new, and it is. It's a brand new company that we spun out of DC Bank this past summer. But the origins of Pateno actually started with Bitvo when we built Bitvo. So to your prior question on how do you scale, that was something we were thinking about when we built Bitvo. So we wanted to take out all of the manual processing behind not the cryptocurrency side, but the fiat transactions. That's where, and the KYC transactions, that's really where the manual processing occurred. So when you think about the old days, and by that I mean like 3-4 years ago, if you wanted to sign up for an exchange, you had to submit a selfie, and you had to submit your driver's license, and you had to submit all of that in photo form electronically, and you're sending it over the web to these sort of untrusted parties. And not only is that less safe, but it takes a lot of time on the other end. Like, someone has to be sitting on the other end and look at it and look at you, and are you that person, and enter it into the system and verify all that. So that doesn't scale. So when we built Bitvo, we automated all of that by what you call APIs. And that is basically technology that allows our online platform and mobile applications to speak directly to the various other parties, whether that is a KYC party or whether that is the Canadian banking system. And it allowed us to automate the entire KYC process, as well as all of the fiat transactions in and out of the platform, whether that is via e-transfer, EFT, or wire. So that was important to us when we were building Bitvo for that reason, and we built it for ourselves. Once we did that, what we realized was there are a ton of other customers, both in the crypto space, but also just customers who run online businesses and mobile applications that want to identify their customers and or accept or remit payment from their customers via the Canadian banking system. So we started selling the technology that we built to all these other platforms and businesses that needed it. And then we woke up one day and realized we had this baby high-tech, high-growth fintech company inside a heavily regulated Schedule I Canadian bank, which is BC Bank. And that didn't really make sense from a valuation perspective as well as the regulatory perspective. So we spun out Pateno in the summer, and it was spun out with an existing, call it 10 to 15 clients in the crypto space in Canada, as well as clients not within that space. Like I mentioned, just online platforms. So it's new, but it's really been in existence for probably almost 3 years now. And it was spun out as kind of not a startup, but probably I would say in more of a scale up phase. And really what it does is it allows for the automation of all of those transactions for any online business you'd want to run.
That's fantastic. You know, the best thing about being innovative when you're able to, it's like, okay, you have this problem, you know, multiple other people are suffering from the exact same problem. And then you have the resources to be able to go create a solution for your own problem. And like, that is absolutely fantastic. I'm excited to see the future growth for that company for sure.
I am
So
as well.
With the financial world changing so quickly, and as a leader in Canada's crypto space, what do you predict the impact of the industry will be in the Canadian finance sector over the next 5 years?
Oh man, this is a hot topic, and I'll tell you why. So, looking at banking available to Canadian crypto businesses today, I would say it's almost never been more difficult to find banking solutions in Canada for Canadian crypto spaces, for Canadian crypto companies. We hear it from our competitors, we hear it from our customers, and it doesn't make any sense to me because, as we've talked about in this call, crypto businesses in Canada have never been more regulated than they are today. I would describe the existing actors in the Canadian crypto space never more above board than they are today. The bad actors, for the most part, to my knowledge, have been all but weeded out. So banks and the traditional financial system should not be more comfortable with Canadian crypto companies today than they were historically. But at the same time, I've never seen them be more nervous. And I wonder what that means. Is it, are they worried about the incoming competition from some of these businesses that have built themselves up and now have become quite large? I'm not really sure what is driving it. So to answer your question about the position, I hope that, I mean, these businesses within Canada have become pretty great institutions and they've grown to a significant size now. So I see them as kind of having a permanent home within the Canadian financial system and disrupting some of the existing financial infrastructure that's already there, which is probably very ripe for disruption. The banks have inherently, and I can say this, I worked for them almost my entire career, much longer than I've worked in the crypto space. They're slow, they're large entities. They take a long time to make change. So whether the crypto industry forces them to change more quickly than historically they have, or whether the crypto industry steps up and starts filling voids that the Canadian banking system has left within the Canadian consumer base, I think it's nothing but a good thing. And I think it's at the point right now, especially with incoming regulation coming in, you can't really stop it or slow it down any further. There's no more excuses to say why these businesses can't continue to grow and take over.
Oh, absolutely. I'm kind of curious to see if anyone is going to like start their own banks. Like if the Royal Banks and the TDs and the Scotias, et cetera, you know, they're clearly hesitant. I hear it all the time. Banking, can't get a bank account, love to start a business, can't get a bank account. It used to be the same way in the cannabis industry. So it's like if you were touching cannabis, you couldn't get a bank account either. But now a lot of these companies are going public and it's getting a lot better. So I'd be curious to see if the traditional banking sector will finally do the same thing they did with cannabis and start accepting some of these clients, or if, you know, some people are going to come along and be like, I'll make my own bank. Like I think I heard Walmart talking about becoming their own banking system as well. I'm like, you know, Amazon could be next to make their own bank. Maybe they'll want to bank crypto companies, and then the traditional banks in Canada will lose even more market share, which
I agree. And I think if they don't adapt, then they will. And I do know that certain institutions are already looking at that in Canada. And is there an opportunity for someone to become like a Silvergate in Canada that specifically focuses on crypto and is reaping the benefits of that as they've done in the US? Absolutely. And I can't wait for that to happen for all of the issues that we've had dealing with the banks over the years.
No, absolutely. God, this has been such a great conversation with you. Like I've been watching you for like years now. I love watching how you participate in the space. Like not only are you running 2 companies right now between like Bitvo and Pateno, but you also sit on the board for the Canadian Blockchain Association for Women. You're sitting on the Canadian Blockchain Consortium's FinTech Committee. You're actively involved in supporting the ecosystem, just like absolutely incredible. And you're a woman, and I love that because strong women make the world go round. So just huge shout out to you. Been admiring you for years, really grateful for the opportunity to be able to interview you and work alongside you in this space. So Thank you for being you, and thank you for joining us here today.
Absolutely, Claire. I would echo that sentiment 100%, and also just acknowledge the great work that the Canadian Blockchain Consortium is doing. I'd say we kind of grew up together. The Canadian Blockchain Consortium was starting around the same time as Bitvo was starting, and we started from really small events to pretty large events to online events in today's virtual world. And I love how you guys have adapted, but always first and foremost supported the ecosystem within Alberta first when you started, but now because you've done such great work for all of Canada. And I think that's just awesome. You provide a lot of great content, education, and support for companies and consumers.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I really, really enjoy, like, I'm learning so much. I definitely didn't come in from a traditional finance background. So getting to like listen in on the FinTech committee calls and learning all about like regulations, et cetera, it's like not something I ever thought that I would probably be exposed to or learn about. But my gosh, you guys are smart enough to hold so much information in your heads. I'm like, my God, it's amazing. And I love like now we're doing monthly webinars with the FinTech committee, talking about all the kind of topics that I know the industry really wants to get engaged in and learn from. And I'm looking forward to our roundtables that you guys will be leading as well, so we can create that neutral ground for regulators and participants in the ecosystem to come together and kind of discuss some of the frameworks that are coming out, and how they could how these companies could adapt to the existing ones, and if there's possible changes to them as well. So I know you guys are doing amazing work on that committee. I'm learning from you guys all the time.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting those out in the public too.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I look forward to meeting with you at our next podcast. So we do them twice a month. This next one comes out, I believe, end of April. So looking forward to seeing you again then. Thank you.